Hey mama, welcome to the One Income Family podcast. Are you having trouble making ends meet? Do you feel like you don't have, maybe enough money to live, let alone reach your financial goals? Are you ready to finally get ahead, to finally feel excited, right? Well, that, my friend, is exactly what today is all about. Today, you will learn how to calculate your income and set up your budget so that you can live beneath your means and finally reach your goals. So go cuddle up with a nice warm drink, get comfy with them babies, and open your heart to God as we head into today's episode. Do you find it hard to save or get out of debt? Are you constantly searching for ways to save money and live on a budget? Do you have big dreams only to be stopped by not sticking to your budget? Are you ready for financial freedom? Then you, mama, are in the right place. Welcome to the One Income Family podcast, where you will learn what it looks like to budget on one income, how to partner with God in your finances, how to budget in a way that's easy to stick to, and how to cut costs and save money, all so that you can start building wealth. It is my mission to equip you with these tools so that you can live in abundance regardless of the amount in your account. Hey, I'm Molly, a budget coach for stay-at-home moms, and I know what it's like to struggle on one income. I've lived paycheck to paycheck, relied on being frugal, and failed many budgets until I learned how to budget without tracking. This has allowed my family to pay off debt and build wealth all on one income. So, if you are ready for financial freedom, then go grab that stroller, plug in those headphones, and let's get to it. So you want to learn how to budget on one income. You're ready to stop living paycheck to paycheck so you can finally do more than pay your bills and eat food. You want to pay off debt and start reaching your financial goals so you can finally get ahead. What if I told you that could be you next month? You could have a simple budget that allows you to easily track your expenses and live beneath your means so that you can finally have that wiggle room that you have been praying for. No more wondering if you have the money or not. No more worrying about unexpected expenses. No more late fees or insufficient funds. And all you have to do is book a budget audit to see what steps you need to take to make this dream a reality. So send me an email at mollybennell@gmail.com to book your budget audit today. Again, that's Molly Bennell, so MOLLY, B as in boy, ENELL, @gmail.com. Alrighty, so I want to talk a little bit today about how, calculating my income, calculating what I call my base budget came to be. So when I first started budgeting I can't say when I first started budgeting, but when I first started budgeting as a one income family, I just kind of went with the numbers that I had. I got the things that were most important that needed to be taken care of first before we went out and did any spending whatsoever. And then at the end, you kind of just had whatever was left over, and you're just like, oh yeah, I can do whatever I want with this, with more like the thought of I can spend it. I can buy things that maybe I need or I want, instead of with the mindset of saving, right? And that's kind of the mindset shift I'm trying to help you get into, is instead of spending everything, it's what can I save up for? What can this money build up to be in the future, right? And so the way that you can get that is simply by calculating your base budget. But what I was starting to talk about is this became a thing. This became something that really opened my eyes to something that I needed to start doing, was when my husband started looking into changing jobs for the first time. So when we first became a one-income family, he'd been with the same business, the same company, for I think it was 5 years, and he was just starting to get really burnt out on it and wanting to change, right? And there were other things that he wanted to do. This job was supposed to be a place marker, not a permanent space, right? And so the fact that he'd been there for 5 years, he's like, okay, it's time for a change, right? And so he started looking, and as he started looking, I'm like, okay, well, I need to really get down into the budget and make sure that we can financially afford this budget change and figure out what our base income is so that we know we can make it, right? So what I learned is that I use this number when we're looking into job changes. Obviously, I use this number when we're looking into like maybe getting a loan or specifically a new vehicle, because it can tell me how much I can afford, not only for the loan but also for the insurance and all the other expenses that come with it, like sales tax and buying tags and everything. That's just like, okay, it's not just the loan, it's other things that come with it as well, right? I use this number to make sure that we are living beneath our means, and we can always have extra, I don't want to say extra, but we can have that wiggle room to be saving money and to take care of the unexpected expenses that come, what we feel like out of left field, even though, it's something that we should be expecting because maybe we just forgot it. Or maybe it is like a complete unexpected thing, like when your child flushes a toy down the toilet and you think you're going to have to cut out all the pipes because it's iron and not PVC, and you're like, oh no, am I going to be able to fix this problem easily and quickly and without like a whole bunch of extra finances going into it? If you can't tell, that's something that I've been dealing with for the past week. I've been using a bucket as a toilet for the past week because we've been struggling to get this fixed. But we finally got it fixed, so I'm back to using a toilet. Something you probably really want to know, right? Oh my goodness. But anyways, I digress. It's the thing that makes sure that I am able to live comfortably, knowing that I am going to have the money to save up for things or to pay for things should they come up that I'm not expecting, right? Okay, so let's dive into, before I dive into how to get to that number, I want to explain like the importance of living beneath your means, which I'm sure you probably know this, but sometimes if things aren't explained to you, like they aren't to me and they aren't brought to my attention, then I don't think about it, then I don't know about it, and I can't make a change, right? And so that's why I feel like it's really important to just talk to you first before I dive into the calculation, just what it means to live beneath your means and how important it is. So simply stated, living beneath your means is just the fact that you don't have your bills and your needs to the very base budget. And I do a zero-based budget, and that's what I teach, is a zero-based budget. And what this means is when you do the zero-based budget, it means that your food, your gas, your bills, your loans, and all those kind of things that are things that you have to buy, like there's absolutely no choice, you have to buy it or something is going to hurt, right? And so if your zero-based budget is zeroed out on those four main living expenses and your bills that you have, then you're going to possibly find yourself in a hard spot because you're not able to save up for maybe some yearly expenses or for some things that you need to live on, because it could be like maybe you have to have gas and you don't have that budgeted in to save up for it, or maybe it could be like your car registration, or maybe you have to save up for your insurance and you don't have a way to save up for that because you are expending all of your income, right? You're spending it all and there's nothing left over or remaining to put towards that stuff. And so it is extremely important to be able to live beneath your means. And that can be such a hard mental thing when you're like, oh, I've got this money, I can go buy a new car. But can you really? At what expense is that going to cost you, right? And so really understanding that you should only be living on a certain percentage of your income is going to help you be able to save for things. It's going to be able to help you to save up for the unexpected expenses that just pop out of nowhere, like the really big ones, even like having to change out your plumbing or something of that sort, right? And so I really want you to understand that living beneath your means is extremely important, and that should be like your first step in saving. Like if you are looking for ways to save, instead of looking for ways to save like frugally, look for ways to cut back your expenses so that you can live beneath your means. Set a percentage. Maybe you want to live to, I don't know, 10% of it that isn't used, or maybe you want a goal of 20% or 30% that you can put towards savings and debt payoff. There's so many options. You can start with 5 and slowly work your way up, right? Just figure out what you're comfortable with so that you have a way of achieving your goals. It is now time to get into calculating your base income. And so that, simply put, like if you don't know what it is, for instance, my husband and he has a job where we don't actually get his base amount very often because he has so much overtime. And so what I usually do is I would take, and this is what I do if I was looking at starting a new job, is I would take his not his take home amount, because we don't know the take home amount, but I would take his hourly wage, I would times it by 40 because that's how many hours he gets. And then I would take 25% out of that for taxes and all that stuff that they take out, before you get your take home amount, right? Maybe it's your insurances as well and retirement, whatever it is that you choose to have taken out of your income before it gets given to you, right? It's your net. No, it's your gross, and you get your net. I'm not going to confuse you with what it's actually called because I'm drawing a blank at which one it is. But anyways, it's your take-home amount, the actual amount that you come home with. That is what you're calculating to figure out what your base income is. For me, that's what I base my base income off of, because I know he gets so much overtime. Like every single paycheck, we get a good chunk above what it is, so I'm not worried about having to go below it. Now, if you are on a salary income and you get the same amount every single month or every single paycheck, then maybe you're going to want to cut it back a little bit and say, let's say you make, I don't know, $30 an hour. Maybe you want to cut that back and say, well, I'm going to say that I make $25 an hour, work with $25 an hour for my base needs, the things that I have that are my expenses, my living expenses and my housing and my car and my food, all those things that you absolutely have to have and to pay for. And then have that extra $5, use that as your starting amount for however what you want to do with it, like savings or paying off debt. And that's how you calculate your base budget, right? You can do whatever one you are most comfortable with. If you have a lot of extra overtime, figure out what your base budget is based off of your hourly wages. And if you have a set income, I suggest backing it off. Maybe you want to do $10 an hour difference, right? It's whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you feel like you can do and make it financially and not make it tight and still feel like you have some wiggle room, right? And this is going to make you feel like you have wiggle room because you're not going to be spending every single penny on things that you want to put towards, I don't know, maybe buying something that's on a loan, right? Okay. So that is how you calculate your base income. Definitely make sure that if you haven't already and you're not sure what it is, take that 25% out from your base pay so that you can figure out what it is that you get take home. And then remember, if you are on a set amount, just take off 5, 10, however many dollars that you feel like you're comfortable doing. Maybe you just start with 2 or 3 and see what the budget looks like from there. You can play with it. It is your sandbox. I love that. A coach of mine used that phrase, and I feel like I'm going to start saying sandbox a lot because it's just so fun, right? But it is your sandbox to play in, and you can, wiggle things around, move things around as you please. So it's just a matter of taking the time to sit down and go in and play with it and see what you are comfortable with. How small of an income are you comfortable with living off of so that you can have the wiggle room, the extra income, the, what's it called? The ability to live beneath your means and put that towards your savings, towards your debt payoff, towards the things that you really want to start achieving your financial goals so that you are not simply stuck in just living, right? You want to be able to live in the future as well, and you want to be able to set up your budget for future expenses, and that's how you're going to do it. So then from there, you simply, to set up your budget to be able to live beneath your means, you just take that base income and you plug it into your budget and you see what comes out. You see if taking off that $5, if you're going to be able to financially make it with the food costs and your expenses and your bare bones budget, right? That is what you're going to be able to cover. That is what you want to be able to cover with your base income, is your bare bones budget. And that, once you are able to figure that out, and maybe you can, as you're in there playing, you're able to see that you can take more off of it, because sometimes the things that get us is the fact that we want money to spend, right? So then we're like, oh, I've got all this money left over. I want to put like $100 a month towards spending on whatever I want to spend. And if you have the finances for it, go for it. But if that is going to take away from achieving your financial goals, you really got to sit and wonder and question in your brain, is it worth it to have that $100 a month in your spending account to spend on whatever you want? Because if you have $100, I'm sure your husband's going to have $100, and there's $200 right there that could be going towards saving something or paying off debt, right? And now I'm not telling you not to have spending money in order to achieve those things. Yeah, maybe you want to do a spending freeze for a month in order to quickly pay something down or quickly save up an emergency fund, because that is more important than that spending money. But I am not telling you not to have the spending money, because when you take away all of that spending money, you're going to feel restricted. You're going to feel unhappy. You're going to feel like you can't do what you want with your money. And that's especially going to be what your husband's feeling. He's going to be thinking, I'm making all this money, but I have nothing to show for it because I can't spend whatever I want to spend my money on because it's all tied up in all this stuff that my wife wants to do, right? Now, he might be on board with what it actually is, but when he's actually sitting there and he's looking at the whole picture, that is something that's probably going to pop up in his brain. That's something that pops up in my husband's brain all the time, and we talk about it a lot because it is a mindset shift that he has had to transition into a new thought process, right? Because his family, they go out and they spend however they want. They buy whatever they want. It does put them sometimes in a financial hardship. And that's what I want to prevent. And so it has been a mindset shift for him. And his family's always like, well, you make the money. Why not just go do whatever you want with it? Do I know how he responds to that? No, but we can all probably guess, right? But anyways, I really just want you to be able to see what it is you can do with your income, to be able to have that security, to be able to know that you're not spending every single dollar on something like a like buying a new vehicle or a new toy that maybe is going to take away that little wiggle room that you did have, and now you are struggling financially. Sometimes if you do get your base pay, because sometimes there are times when you get sick and you're used to the overtime and you get sick and you have days off, or sometimes your company just doesn't have the work for you. So they say, well, why don't you sit today? Or, that's something that my husband deals with. And you're just like, okay, well, now he's not getting pay that day. Now he's not getting, the 40 hours or the over 40 hours because he was sick. He only got 8 hours for sick day or holidays. And now I'm struggling financially because I have put every single dollar that I was making into my bare bones budget because I decided to get a toy that maybe I couldn't actually afford. And so that's why it's so important that if there's a toy that you want to get, I'm not telling you not to get it, but don't get it based off of a loan. Save up for it. Buy it outright as much as you possibly can so that you are not struggling financially. The Bible talks about it in many places to not get into a whole bunch of debt, right? And it specifically, one of the verses is Proverbs 22:7, and it says, "The rich rule over the poor, and borrower is slave to the lender." And that is what we're talking about here. If you have put all of your money into these toys, into debt, you are then slave to the lender and you are at their mercy. And that's where the financial hardship comes out, because if you don't pay that, then you will get bad credit scores and all this stuff. I'm not big into credit scores. I don't worry about them. But if that's something that you do worry about and you would like to have a high credit score, then you're going to be worrying more about getting that debt paid than having food for your family. And maybe having healthy food is an important thing to you. And so if you have so much money tied up in debt, you don't have the money to buy the healthier products, to buy maybe you want to go organic, or maybe you want to buy fresh or instead of frozen, right? Then you are not going to be able to buy those things that are important to you, that are a priority for you and your family, so that you're able to take care of yourself, so that you're able to move on in life with a positive, healthy energy, right? And if all of your money is tied up in debts or expenses that you have to pay, then you're not going to be able to have that. You're also going to feel restricted that way too, because again, you don't have the wiggle room. So I really just want to push, and push isn't the right word, but I really want you to think about the importance of calculating your income to a lower living expenses income so that you can really just thrive and feel like you are living a good, comfortable, healthy life, instead of feeling like you're restricted, like you have to take care of these bills that are just coming out of nowhere. They're just making it difficult for you to make ends meet. That is not a place where I want you to live. There might be times where that happens, and that's okay. Or maybe, like I said, you do a spending freeze for a month so that you can, save up for something really quickly so that you can get something. But then you don't want to stay in that stuck state. So this is just coming to me. This is kind of like when you're living in that fight or flight phase of life, right? If you are in that stuck state of like living bare bones and you aren't able to do a whole bunch with your income, you are just like in that fight or flight. You're just like sitting there, not able to do anything that brings you joy. It stresses you out. You're worried about whether or not you're going to be able to make the next payment. You're worried about whether you're going to be able to go and do something fun the next time your friends ask you to do it. Get out of that mindset. Get out of that fight or flight. Get out of that stress by giving yourself some wiggle room so that you can give money, so that you can save money, so that you can pay off debt and do the things that really bring you joy instead of tying you down. Okay, I could continue this on and just rant, and you'd probably get bored about it. So I'm going to stop here, but I just really hope that you do take the time to sit down and calculate your income for success so that you can live beneath your means instead of living in a stuck state of making like ends not meet, like just being there going, I don't have enough money to pay for my bills and now I'm stressing over it. Get out of that stress. Give yourself wiggle room, and this is the tool, this is the how for you to be able to do that. Okay, now if you want to do this and you're still questioning, like, I get what you're saying, but I don't really understand how to do it, then grab yourself a budget audit and let's get on a call together and get it figured out for you, right? That is what I'm here for. I'm here to walk you through this. I'm here to help you, take you through it so that you don't have to figure it out by yourself. If you can figure it out by yourself, go for it. Then come over and send me an email and let me know what you came up with. I'd love to talk to you about it and see what it is that you have come up with for your family, for a much more comfortable life that doesn't feel stressed and overwhelmed, right? So you can do either one of those things. You can email me your response or whatever came to your mind about this podcast episode, or you can grab a budget audit simply by emailing me mollybennell@gmail.com. That's MOLLY, B as in boy, ENELL, and get that budget audit booked today so that you can stop living in stress and overwhelm and start living in peace and being able to thrive and stop feeling restricted and just be able to save up for those things that you are so excited for, because you can have that life even on one income. So with that being said, I will see you right back here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast. Before you go, I hope this episode has ignited a fire inside of you, and I pray that it creates long-lasting impact. Did you know that you too can impact other one-income families? All you have to do is leave a written review, and you help get the podcast in the hands of other mamas in need. You can also text this episode to that friend who is also knee-deep in the same kind of chaos as you and inspire them to make a change. Also, your review lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and that lights me up. I get so excited to hear from you. Another great way that we can connect, though, is through the One Income Family community over on Facebook. So after you're done leaving that 5-star review, head on over to the community where you will find other mamas working their way out of the chaos. You can ask your questions and connect with others who truly understand what you are going through. I cannot wait to connect with you in the community. Until then, I will see you right here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast.